Dun, 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 dun.
Considering that adaptations for Lord of the Rings properties are particularly active within the video gaming world, I found it kind of fun to look at some recent and some past endeavors. I got a long series of videos I'm going to be looking at in regard to some Lord of the Rings video game properties. And interestingly, as I've expressed in past videos, this is how I came into the Lord of the Rings world. Perhaps a bit unusual compared to other Lord of the Rings fans out there. For most people, I'd imagine typically it went from the books to the films and then perhaps the video games. Mine is the complete opposite in that I entered the Lord of the Rings world through the video games, specifically Lego Lord of the Rings. I was a huge, I still am a huge Lego games fan, and Lord of the Rings is still my favorite property. I love the licensed adaptation games that they make. They're just always so much fun. And the world building in regard to how that game is constructed for Lord of the Rings, it being so reminiscent of the films and just put you square in that. It's a really fun open world game, in my opinion. Anyway, that's how I entered the Lord of the Rings world, right? And then I watched the films, and then I need to get around to reading the books. I still haven't yet. It's a schedule thing, and I got so many books to read. I mean, I'm still trying to fit it in. But this is how I entered Lord of the Rings, again, for the video gaming world. So I figured it'd be fitting, check out what else is in the video gaming space. And I've, of course, played a couple of not just Lego games, but, specific to Lord of the Rings, other Lord of the Rings video game ventures. The Middle-earth games, love those. And the Gollum game, I've checked that out recently. That looked, it still looks pretty good. But let's see some other ones. So including this new one called Return to Moria, which I don't know if any other games are kind of following this pattern. The past games I've played haven't, but this is set in the Fourth Age, so this is beyond the scope of the films. So I would imagine there's a little more originality in the property here, and I know I did some light research. This is actually mentioned in some of Tolkien's propositions for the books, and I think in some of his writings, I don't remember exactly, but the Fourth Age to some extent was covered. So it's going to be kind of interesting to look at this game, being like, okay, this is happening in the time after all the action set within the movies and typically the other video games that I've played. But to give you a bit of a general baseline, I pulled up a synopsis here from the main website, returntomoria.com. I'm just going to read a section of it, but you can read down more. There's a lot of information here for yourself, if you want to get a deeper perspective on the game. But I haven't really yet. I'm just going to read the general synopsis to give you, again, the plot perspective. Welcome to the Lord of the Rings Return to Moria, the only survival crafting video game set in the Fourth Age of Middle-earth, the iconic fantasy world created by J.R.R. Tolkien. Summoned to the Misty Mountains by Lord Gimli Lockbearer, players take control of a company of dwarves tasked to reclaim the lost spoils from the Dwarven homeland of Moria, known as Khazad-dûm or Dwarrowdelf, sorry if I'm mispronouncing any of these, in the depths below their very feet. Their quest will require fortitude, delving deep into the Mines of Moria to recover its treasures. Set in a procedurally generated dwarven realm of Moria, no two adventures will be alike, and every expedition is traversable either solo or online with companions. Players can mine to craft greater gear and resources, but beware, mining makes noise, and noise created in the quiet deep threatens to awaken the dangers below. Where there's clatter, there's combat. Excavate the mysteries of 3 legendary mountains, extract precious metals, scrape to survive, and battle unspeakable forces to learn the secret of the shadow that lurks within. So it sounds pretty interesting. Again, very much set in the world of Lord of the Rings, with different creatures. I'm sure they're behind it poses a threat to you, so maybe there's an action component. This seems to be much more heavily, though, a crafting game. And this reminds me a lot, at least in the way this is described, of like you going around and gathering up different precious stones and metals and stuff. It reminds me of a part of the Lego Hobbit game, which was not as good as the Lord of the Rings one. The Lord of the Rings one was by far and away much better, and plus the Hobbit was, they never even finished it in terms of the third movie. That still bothers me, but they had that first level where you were stomping around. Again, it followed the plot of the first film and the introduction, but you were as a dwarf were scaling down the mountain, trying to find the Arkenstone and hammering into the different gems. This kind of reminded me just the way it was described of that. Different style. I'm not sure what platform it's for. I don't think they label it here. At least I didn't see it indicated on the page. It doesn't come out until spring 2023, so there's still a bit of a window to play the game. But it has, a nice font. I mean, the plot definitely does follow, I would say, in pursuit of the Lord of the Rings franchise, even if, again, it has more originality in the story structure, perhaps. Or I should say more originality. It has a little more creative liberty to work with being set in the Fourth Age, at least from my understanding. Let's go. I don't think these moments were clearly defined in Tolkien's work. I could be completely wrong on that, and feel free to, clarify down below if I am. Without further ado, though, I'm going to go ahead and give this first trailer introduction. Again, early days. This is mostly just heralding the ad of the game. Without further ado, here we go.
The Forge's fire has long gone cold.
That's a pretty style of narration for a fantasy game, especially set way back.
Mountain of Durin's folk. A shadow took our treasured halls.
This is mostly just like cinematic segments.
Now it calls
It's
us
okay, though.
back.
And the door looks cool.
Khazad-dûm.
Good design work, good environments. I'm just curious what platform this is for. So you're building your own, like, Dwarven kingdom too, and weaponry. Okay, there are the orcs, I guess? It would have been nice to see some of the gameplay.
And enter.
Okay, they say wishlist now. I don't see anywhere that lists the platforms. Maybe that's indicated somewhere else. And if you know what platform this is for or where they're going to be releasing this, feel free to contribute that down below if you feel so inclined. It would have been nice to see some gameplay, because other than the introduction, which has some good, cutscene images. I mean, that door, the elven door, I forget exactly what it's called, but I mean, that fits the design of the Lord of the Rings world. I wonder if they're trying to make this, canon to the films. I don't know exactly. The look of the environment of the Dwarven Kingdom is fine. In fact, you get to upgrade that, so you get to build your own kingdom, build your own armor. I mean, it's actually a really good look, to be honest with you, in terms of the scenery. I'm just curious to see, perhaps, some of the gameplay and motion, other than just how heavy into crafting is this, right? And you've got the shadows of the other orcs coming in. Are you just running away? Are you hiding? Do you get to fight the orcs? It looks like in part you do. I feel like I need to see more to gauge my level of interest with this game. I also just need more information in terms of where it's coming out, how easy. Maybe this could be is this mobile, PC, console? I don't know exactly how to gauge it best. It's still, again, early days. But as an announcement, it looks fine. It looks like kind of a fun Lord of the Rings game, maybe? We'll see. What are your feelings on it? I could see maybe varied interest, possibly. Especially depending on the platform and the style of the gameplay. If it's more crafting heavy, I don't know how many Lord of the Rings fans would jump on. Is this going to reach the prominence of Lego Lord of the Rings, the Middle-earth games? I don't know. I don't know how best it equals those. But, I mean, in terms of the originality of the story, it seems with the Fourth Age, they have a little more room to work with, right? At least from my understanding of the way that's articulated in the text. But let me know your thoughts down below. I mean, they did mention specifically in the synopsis Tolkien, but they identified specifically this is created, or the iconic fantasy world created by J.R.R. Tolkien. Hopefully they stay true to his work. I mean, Amazon's learning this the hard way right now, and it seems to be ever creative ventures. Well, it's funny, in the gaming world, it seems gaming developers seem to understand this better, right? The Gollum game, I praise that because the developers and some of their adverts have expressed that, we wanted to produce Gollum in a way that suit Tolkien's spirit of the novelizations as he wrote his world, rather than, Amazon over there being like, well, we wanted to make some, modern small revisions. And you're like, anyway. And they're feeling the flack right now, fittingly. This game, though, seems to have at least some promise in regard to its opener. We still need, I think, more information to best gauge the level of interest for it. I think it could be fun. The approach of the gameplay might limit the audience. Because I don't know how, most people, I think, when they think of Lord of the Rings games, think of actioners and not necessarily crafting heavy. This has action components, it seems, but again, I'm not getting a clear gauge on how the gameplay best materializes. And is there a general campaign, or maybe just a broad story structure, I guess? Maybe, I'm not exactly sure. And again, like I said, if you want to read more information in terms of the game, rather than even what I covered, the website has an extensive information base in regard to what you can expect for the game, I guess, in terms of the way they've envisioned it being produced if you want to read deeper into it. But for now, I think it's a good introduction. I think of time again, we need to see more to best engage with what the level of interest would be. That's just my general feeling. Thank you so much for watching this video. Before you bounce, feel free to drop a like and comment, subscribe to this channel with a ding on the bell, and share this video with your friends. And consider checking out the description here. There you'll find links to my other channels, as well as addresses to my other social media accounts and ways you can help support my work if you feel so inclined. May God bless you, and looking forward to when our paths cross again.